Have you noticed that some of your favorite grocery items have been vanishing lately? Yeah, it's not just your imagination. Some everyday essentials are quietly disappearing from shelves, and by April of 2025, you may not see them at all. Why? Well, let's talk about inflation, supply chain chaos, and the ever-changing food industry. Think of it like this: prices keep rising, companies panic, and then suddenly your favorite snack is poof, gone, just like that. Well, let's be real. We've all noticed how grocery shopping feels more like a survival game these days. Prices jump every other week, sizes shrink, hello shrinkflation, and suddenly that $5 loaf of bread is looking like a luxury item. But what's even worse? Well, some brands aren't just getting more expensive, they're straight up disappearing. Some companies are quietly cutting products that aren't selling as much because, let's face it, they'd rather focus on their best sellers than keep making things that aren't flying off the shelves. Meanwhile, farmers and food suppliers are struggling with rising costs, which means some ingredients are getting harder to find, leading to certain foods being discontinued. And let's not forget about climate change, which is throwing a wrench into crop production, making some items more scarce than ever. Then there's the frustrating part. Companies sometimes discontinue or rebrand products without warning just to cut costs or shift their focus. One day you're happily grabbing your go-to cereal, and the next it's being replaced by some new and improved version that's just not the same. And guess what? Some of the items on this list will shock you. So before you head to the store expecting to grab your usual favorites, let's dive into the 8 grocery items that may disappear before April of 2025. Starting off at number 8 is margarine. You might remember when margarine was the king of breakfast tables. That yellow tub of buttery, goodness, was once a staple in every American household. Slapped onto toast, swirled into mashed potatoes, or baked into Grandma's famous cookies. But guess what? Margarine is slowly disappearing from grocery shelves, and honestly, it's been a long time coming. Why? Well, people are getting smarter about what they eat. Over the years, margarine has been exposed as a highly processed artificial butter imposter that once contained dangerous trans fats, the stuff that clogs arteries and messes with heart health. Even though today's versions have ditched those trans fats, the damage to its reputation has already been done. And let's be real, who wants to spread something on their toast when half the ingredients sound like they belong in a chemistry lab? Not me. And now, on the other hand, real butter is making a major comeback. More and more people are ditching the artificial stuff and reaching for grass-fed butter, ghee, and even plant-based spreads made from cashews, coconut, or avocado. Why? Well, because they're simple, natural, and honestly, they just taste better. And let's not forget the rise of gourmet cooking. No self-respecting chef is reaching for margarine when they can use rich, creamy butter instead. And did you know that margarine was originally created as a butter substitute for Napoleon III's army in the 1860s? Yeah, the French emperor wanted a cheaper alternative to butter for his troops, so scientists whipped up artificial spread. Fast forward a century, and margarine, it somehow became the healthier choice over butter until science proved otherwise. Nowadays, food-conscious shoppers are looking for short ingredient lists, natural fats, and fewer processed foods. Margarine, unfortunately, just doesn't fit the bill anymore. It's been labeled as cheap, outdated, and overly processed. And with plant-based alternatives offering cleaner labels and sustainability perks, margarine, it just can't keep up. So if you're a margarine fan, you might want to stock up now, because by April of 2025, it could be as hard to find as a good avocado that's ripe but not too ripe. Now, on to number 7. Powdered drink mixes. First, margarine started vanishing, and now powdered drink mixes are on their way out too. Remember those little packets of powdered lemonade, fruit punch, or neon-colored sports drinks? You rip them open, dump the sugary dust into a pitcher, stir it up, and boom, instant refreshment. For decades, powdered drink mixes were a household staple, perfect for quick, budget-friendly drinks. But let's be honest, when was the last time you actually bought one? As it turns out, powdered drink mixes are rapidly fading from grocery store shelves, and they might not even make it past April of 2025. Why? Well, for starters, today's consumers are more health conscious than ever. And let's face it, those drink powders are basically chemistry experiments in a pouch. They're packed with artificial flavors, colors, and sweeteners, which were totally acceptable in the 90s when we didn't question why our fruit punch was radioactive red. But now, people are ditching that red dye and anything that looks or sounds overly processed. A 2024 survey by Food Navigator found that millennials and Gen Z are turning their backs on artificial beverages in favor of organic, cold-pressed, or naturally flavored drinks. Instead of mixing up a powdered sports drink, they're grabbing ready-to-drink options made with real fruit juice, electrolytes, and natural sweeteners. And let's not forget the rise of functional beverages like probiotic-infused kombucha, adaptogenic teas, and vitamin-packed hydration drinks. Suddenly, a basic fruit punch mix feels a bit outdated. And then there's the environmental factor. Powdered drink mixes usually come in single-use plastic packaging, which is a big no-no in today's eco-conscious world. As companies scramble to reduce plastic waste, these little pouches don't just fit the sustainability trend. More people are looking for zero-waste, refillable, or glass bottle drink options, leaving powdered mixes struggling to keep up. But here's another interesting shift. DIY drink culture is booming, thanks to social media. TikTok and Instagram are flooded with videos showing how to make fresh fruit-infused waters, electrolyte-packed homemade sports drinks, and natural energy teas with no artificial powders required. People are realizing that whipping up a fresh lemonade with actual lemons takes just as much effort as stirring a mix, but it tastes way better. So is this the end of powdered drink mixes? It sure looks that way. Between the demand for healthier ingredients, the push for sustainable packaging, and the rise of homemade drinks, these once popular pantry staples might be gone before you know it. So if you're a diehard fan, now might be the time to stock up, because soon those little packets could be nothing more than a nostalgic memory. Number 6, box cake mixes. If you thought powdered drink mixes disappearing was a shock, well, brace yourself, because boxed cake mixes are next on the chopping block. Yeah, those trusty little boxes of instant cake magic, once a lifesaver for last-minute birthdays and bake sales, are slowly fading into obscurity. And honestly, it makes sense. People are ditching the artificial stuff and realizing that homemade baking isn't as scary as it once seemed. Gone are the days when we blindly trusted that a powdery mix, a splash of oil, and an egg could somehow transform into a bakery-worthy masterpiece. Now we're asking ourselves way too many questions like, why does this cake mix last 2 years on a shelf? And what even is sodium stearoyl lactylate? Ugh. Now let's be real, social media is a real cake mix killer. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have turned everyday people into home baking pros, showing us that baking from scratch isn't just doable, it's weirdly fun. One viral recipe, and suddenly millions of people are whipping up fluffy bakery-style cakes without a mix in sight. Who needs a store-bought box when you can make a 5-ingredient cake that tastes like it came straight from a Paris pastry shop? Plus, scratch baking gives you bragging rights. Nothing feels more powerful than pulling a homemade cake out of the oven and saying, "Oh, this?" very casually. Just something I whipped up. Meanwhile, box cake mixes are starting to feel a little lazy. Another reason that cake mixes are on life support are that people actually care about the ingredients now. A lot of these mixes are loaded with preservatives, artificial flavors, and who knows what just to keep them shelf stable for years. And in an age when people are reading labels like detectives, that's not exactly a selling point. More and more consumers are choosing organic, gluten-free, vegan, and allergen-friendly baking options, and traditional cake mixes just can't keep up. Not to mention, people are also realizing that homemade cakes just taste better. Box cake mixes have a signature meh flavor. You know, the kind that tastes suspiciously like nostalgia, but not quite like real cake. With fresh ingredients, homemade cakes have richer flavors, better textures, and none of that, is this vanilla or is it just vaguely sweet, aftertaste. And then there's the rise of high-quality, ready-made desserts, with bakeries and grocery stores offering gourmet cupcakes, custom cakes, and artisan pastries that look straight out of the Great British Bake Off. Fewer people feel the need to rely on a mix. Why go through the trouble of baking when you could just grab a perfect, already-made cake from the store and call it a day? Even for those who do love baking, box mixes are losing their appeal. If you're going to take time to bake, wouldn't you rather make something from scratch and flex your skills a bit? At this rate, box cake mixes might soon be a relic of mid-20th century convenience, left behind with Jell-O salads and canned meatloaf. Unless brands start reinventing their formulas to match today's health-conscious, ingredient-savvy consumers, they could be completely wiped off shelves by April of 2025. So if you're still a diehard fan of box cake mix, you might want to stock up now because in a few years, they might be as hard to find as a guilt-free second slice of cake. Good luck. Number 5, instant gravy packets. If box cake mixes are getting the boot, you better believe that instant gravy packets are next in line. For decades, those little powdered gravy packs have been a lifesaver for busy families, turning water into a kind of homemade sauce in just minutes. But here's the thing, we've wised up. People are looking at the back of those packets and realizing that what's inside is more science experiment than comfort food. With sky-high sodium levels, artificial thickeners, and preservatives that sound like they belong in a chemistry class, instant gravy, it's just not cutting it anymore. As it turns out, making real gravy from scratch isn't as intimidating as we once thought. In fact, social media is now making it easier than ever. One quick TikTok or Instagram reel, and suddenly everyone knows how to whisk up a rich, flavorful gravy with just a few pantry staples. A little butter, a little flour, and the drippings from whatever you just cooked. Boom. Real gravy with no weird additives. And let's be honest, homemade gravy actually tastes like gravy. Instant gravy, it's more like a distant cousin that tries but never quite delivers. But if you really don't want to make your own, grocery stores have you covered. Pre-made fresh gravies in the refrigerated section are quickly replacing the need for powdered alternatives. These ready-to-heat gravies offer better flavor, better ingredients, and none of that powdery aftertaste that instant mixes tend to have. So why settle for a packet when you can grab a rich, flavorful gravy made with real stock and actual seasonings? Another reason gravy packets are disappearing? Well, they're kind of boring. Most instant gravy brands offer the same basic flavors like brown, turkey, chicken, maybe mushroom if they're feeling fancy, but today's home cooks want customization, variety, and international flavors that instant gravy just can't deliver. People also experiment with everything from garlic-infused gravies to umami-packed miso gravies, things that powdered mixes are just simply not designed to do. As home cooking becomes more quality-focused and customizable, instant gravy packets feel like a relic of the past, one that just doesn't really hold up anymore. Whether people are whisking up their own or grabbing a fresh ready-made version, one thing's clear: those dusty little packets are running out of time. So if you're still clinging to instant gravy, you may want to stash a few away for nostalgia's sake, because before you know it, they can be as rare as someone who actually follows the "gravy should never touch my mashed potatoes" rule. Number 4, canned fruit cocktails. Now, if instant gravy packets are fading away, it's certainly no surprise that canned fruit cocktails are circling the drain too. Let's be honest, when was the last time you actually craved a bowl of fruit cocktail? You know, that syrupy mix of peaches, pears, and the occasional sad maraschino cherry, all floating in the same artificial sugar bath? Well, once a mid-century pantry staple, fruit cocktail was the height of convenience, a quick and easy way to get some fruit into your diet. But in today's world of fresh, organic, and vibrant produce, canned fruit cocktail, it doesn't really stand a chance. One of the biggest reasons fruit cocktails disappearing is that syrup. Oh, that thick, sugary, almost suspiciously glossy liquid that turns a supposedly healthy snack into a borderline dessert. According to Eat This Not That, many consumers are ditching syrup-soaked fruit in favor of fresh and frozen alternatives, which offer better flavor, texture, and actual nutritional value. Why eat peaches that have been floating in sugar water for a year when you can have juicy, ripe, just-picked fruit instead? Even when brands did switch to fruit in 100% juice, the damage was already done. People had moved on, realizing that fresh fruit doesn't need a can to taste good. Supermarkets now sell pre-cut fresh fruit blends that make opening a can feel pointless and outdated. Another problem? Canned fruit cocktail is forever linked to sad cafeteria lunches. We all remember those little plastic cups filled with a mushy, beige-colored mix of mystery fruits, with that one soggy cherry that always felt like a prize but never actually tasted good. For many, canned fruit cocktail is a relic of the past, reminding people of Jell-O molds, Grandma's special ambrosia salad, and 1950s cookbooks that thought mayonnaise belonged in dessert. Modern food trends have left fruit cocktail in the dust. Today's consumers are looking for fresh, natural ingredients with minimal processing, and canned fruit cocktail, it just doesn't fit the bill. Meanwhile, social media is flooded with recipes featuring fresh fruit bowls, smoothie bowls, and DIY fruit salads that look way more appetizing than a tin of decades-old Dykes pears. When the internet is showing you how to make an acai bowl that's topped with fresh berries and coconut flakes, it's hard to feel excited about scooping fruit from a can. Even if nostalgia isn't enough to save fruit cocktail, environmental concerns might be the final nail in the coffin. Canned goods require a ton of energy to produce, and with growing awareness about sustainability, many shoppers are cutting back on packaged and processed foods. More people are buying fresh, shopping local, and avoiding unnecessary packaging, which means less reliance on aluminum cans. At this rate, canned fruit cocktail might soon be as extinct as the Jell-O molds it used to be served in. Unless brands reinvent it maybe with exotic fruit blends or healthier, more natural versions, it won't be long before it vanishes from grocery store shelves entirely. So if you're feeling nostalgic for that syrupy cafeteria-style fruit mix, you might want to grab a can while you still can, because by April 2025, it may be as rare as a fruit cocktail that actually has enough cherries in it. Number 3, processed cheese slices. If canned fruit cocktails get in the axe, then brace yourself, because processed cheese slices are next in line. Remember those bright yellow, perfectly squared cheese slices that wrapped every childhood sandwich in a layer of gooey, melty goodness? Yeah, well, they're slowly being kicked out of kitchens, and honestly, it might be about time. The world is leveling up its cheese game, and those flimsy plastic-wrapped slices just can't compete with real high-quality cheese anymore. Let's call it what it is. Processed cheese isn't actually cheese. Well, at least not entirely. It's a mix of milk, oil, emulsifiers, and mysterious cheese-like substances that do come together to form a rubbery, shelf-stable square that melts a little too perfectly. Yeah, it was the MVP of grilled cheese sandwiches and those late-night microwave nacho experiments, but in today's food-conscious world, it's looking more like a relic of the past. Consumers are reading labels more than ever, and words like sodium citrate and modified food starch don't exactly scream gourmet. According to the New York Times, times, younger generations are ditching overly processed foods in favor of fresh, natural, and artisanal alternatives. In short, if you need a science degree to understand your cheese, people, they're not going to want it anymore. If there's one thing that we've learned from this disappearing food trend, it's that social media is rewriting grocery store shelves, just like boxed cake mixes and instant gravy packets. Processed cheese is also getting replaced by real food trends that are blowing up online. And then there's the vegan cheese movement. As more people switch to plant-based diets, traditional processed cheese slices aren't just competing with fancy dairy cheeses, they're also losing ground to dairy-free alternatives. Brands are now offering cashew-based bries, almond milk cheddars, and even meltable vegan mozzarella that taste better and align with modern food values. So whether you're going dairy-free or just looking for a cleaner ingredient, processed cheese isn't the first choice anymore. Now, nostalgia can be powerful, and processed cheese isn't going to vanish overnight. It'll probably still hang around in some households, but as consumers demand better, more natural, and more flavorful food, processed cheese is on borrowed time. By April of 2025, these plastic wrap squares might only be found in the back of your grandma's fridge, right next to one of those old forgotten cans of fruit cocktail. Number 2, hydrogenated oils. If processed cheese slices are fading away, then hydrogenated oils are getting kicked to the curb even faster. For decades, hydrogenated oils were the secret ingredient behind flaky pastries, crispy fries, and shelf-stable cookies. They made everything taste great and last forever, literally. But as it turns out, that long shelf life came at a cost. These oils were packed with trans fats, which are now known to be a public enemy when it comes to heart health. And let's be real, when the FDA straight up bans something, you know it's bad. In 2018, the U.S. officially banned partially hydrogenated oils, forcing food manufacturers to scramble for alternatives. But even though partially hydrogenated oils got the boot, their sneaky cousin, fully hydrogenated oils, managed to stick around in some processed foods. At least for now, but not for much longer. By April 2025, we're expecting these bad boys to be under the microscope, and chances are they're going to be phased out completely as the war against trans fats continues. One of the biggest reasons that hydrogenated oils were everywhere was that it kept food from spoiling. That's why your grandma's cookies from 1998 still look suspiciously fresh. But today's consumers are choosing fresher, cleaner ingredients, even if it means a shorter shelf life. The rise of organic, non-GMO, and minimally processed foods means that we don't need Franken oils to keep our snacks from going stale anymore. So, if you still have a pack of old-school cookies made from hydrogenated oils, you might want to check the expiration date, or better yet, just let them go. Because by April 2025, this once popular ingredient will be as outdated as a Blockbuster membership card. Number 1, canned soups. If hydrogenated oils are getting the boot, then brace yourself because canned soups are next on the chopping block. For decades, canned soups were the ultimate lazy meal. Sick? Go ahead and heat up some chicken noodle soup. Broke? Grab a can of tomato soup and call it a dinner. But let's be real, when was the last time you actually enjoyed canned soup? Exactly. Once a pantry staple, canned soups are rapidly losing their place at the dinner table. The reason? Well, people are paying way more attention to what's actually in their food, and let's just say that a can of salty, mushy mystery broth isn't exactly a gourmet experience. Another reason that people are ditching canned soup? The packaging. Environmental concerns about metal waste and BPA-lined cans are making consumers think twice before adding them to their cart. Meanwhile, brands offering glass jars, compostable packaging, or even frozen pouches are stealing the spotlight. Look, nostalgia is strong. We're always going to have a soft spot for a bowl of Campbell's tomato soup with a grilled cheese. Ooh. But at the rate things are changing, canned soups are looking more like a relic from the 50s, right next to fruit cocktails and the processed cheese slices. By April 2025, don't be surprised if the soup aisle shrinks dramatically, or if canned soup becomes one of those things only found in grandma's basement pantry, right next to the emergency flashlight and expired beans. And there you have it, 8 grocery staples on their way out before April of 2025. From processed cheese to canned soup, shifting health trends, cleaner ingredients, and sustainability are all reshaping. While some of these might spark nostalgia, the food world is evolving fast. Are you going to miss them, or are you already on board with the change? Drop your thoughts, share with friends, and stay tuned, because who knows what's next to disappear.